West Asia is on an edge. The sound of explosions has returned to Iran. This time, reports of blasts emerged near Bushehr, which is home to Iran's only operational nuclear power plant. It is one of the most sensitive locations in the country, and any military activity in its vicinity immediately sends shockwaves far beyond the region. US CENTCOM released these visuals to show the attacks that they carried out. On the other hand, the IRGC of Iran also released footage of its missile launches on American targets in the Gulf, particularly in Kuwait and Bahrain. American forces carried out another round of strikes inside Iran on Wednesday, targeting military infrastructure. Explosions took place near Bushehr, Bandar Abbas and Chabahar. Now, here's why Bushehr matters. Unlike Iran's controversial uranium enrichment sites at Natanz or Fordow, Bushehr is a working nuclear power plant. It generates electricity for millions. It also represents one of the most sensitive pieces of civilian infrastructure in the region. As of now, there is no official confirmation that the reactor itself has been hit or damaged, and there are no reports of any radiation leak. But just the fact that military action is taking place so close to an operational nuclear facility has set off alarm bells across the international community. Even as a near miss at such a site is enough to raise fears of a catastrophe that would extend far beyond Iran's borders. According to the US Central Command, the strikes were aimed at degrading Iran's military capabilities and protecting international shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, for Washington, this is about deterrence. For Tehran, it is another act of aggression. And between these two positions lies a region that has spent months moving from one crisis to the next.
We have many ways we could win, but we've already won militarily. They have very little. They have very little left, and they want to make a deal so badly. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the route.
If they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
Because it's sort of crazy, to be honest. They're sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of it too, but they want to make a deal. Badly.
US President Donald Trump, in fact, delivered one of his strongest statements yet. He has claimed that Iranian hardliners want him assassinated. Take a listen.
All the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go. Right?
But was there a specific
perhaps someday you want to change professions.
Trump also declared that if Iran strikes again, the United States will respond with an even greater force.
We just hit them very hard. And I say we hit them 20-1. Every time they hit us, we're going to hit them 20. And we did it last night. It did a little something today, but it was really retribution for last night. They hit actually 3 boats, not 2. And when they hit, we hit back much harder.
The message from Washington is unmistakable. America is escalating. The message from Tehran is also equally clear. Retaliation remains on the table. And in fact, it has been happening in the past few hours. On Wednesday, the US Central Command completed a second day of strikes against Iran to further degrade Iran's ability to attack commercial shipping and innocent civilian mariners in the Strait of Hormuz. It also stated that the United States is holding Iran accountable for recent unjustified aggression against commercial shipping and civilian crews freely navigating a vital international waterway. According to Iranian authorities, the American strikes continued against ports in the Hormuzgan province. Media reports stated that 2 fishermen were killed while 2 others were injured. Iran responded by attacking American bases in Kuwait and Bahrain again. Meanwhile, Iran has also submitted a separate letter to the President of the United Nations Security Council as well as the UN Secretary General over these latest attacks, calling Washington's actions another blatant violation of Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the UN Charter and a fundamental breach of Article 1 of the Islamabad Agreement. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai said the United States had challenged the provisions of the agreement through unilateral actions and military attacks, undermining the overall framework of the memorandum. Iran's press TV, citing sources, reported that the country could close down the Strait of Hormuz and strike twice as many targets if the United States launched further attacks. UN spokesperson Stephane Jurek said that a return to full-scale hostilities would have catastrophic consequences for the people of the region, for the international peace and security, and for the global economy as a whole. Meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz, remember, remains a vulnerable friction point. According to U.S. assessments, tanker traffic through the strategic waterway has largely stopped amid the current uncertainties. International Maritime Organization Secretary General Arsenio Dominguez said that hundreds of ships and around 6,000 seafarers remain stranded in the Gulf due to security concerns. Amid the escalated ground and aerial situation, train services between Tehran and Mashhad, where the late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's funeral is due to take place, had been disrupted. Iranian media said that the line was targeted by an American strike. Whether diplomacy is still alive or not is increasingly difficult to tell at the moment. What is clear, though, is that the rhetoric has become sharper than ever. This is no longer a confrontation that affects only two countries. Within hours of the strikes, oil prices had surged as traders feared further disruption in Hormuz. Remember, this is the story of another dangerous turn in a conflict that is refusing to end. Even as it is grappling with rising internal violence, Pakistan has tried to deflect attention once again by upping the ante against India. Pakistan People's Party chairperson and former Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto has now challenged India for a war. Speaking at a public rally in the illegally occupied Indian territory of Gilgit-Baltistan, Bhutto accused India of trying to use the Indus River as a weapon against Pakistan. Ruling out any compromise on the issue, he asserted that Pakistan was ready to fight a war against India.
हम आपको जवाब देंगे, हम सिंधु पे सौदा करने के लिए तैयार नहीं हैं, जंग लड़ना पड़ेंगे तो जंग लड़ने के लिए तैयार है.
After the dastardly Pahalgam terror attack in May last year, India had put the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance, remember, linking it with Islamabad's support for cross-border terrorism. This was a big blow for Pakistan, as nearly 80 to 90% of its agriculture depends on this very Indus River system. The Indus Waters Treaty, remember, was signed back in 1960 following 9 years of negotiations. The three western rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab, were allocated to Pakistan. Although the treaty allocated water from the eastern rivers of Satluj, Beas and Ravi for India's unrestricted use, the country lacked the infrastructure to stem the flow of the Ravi River into Pakistan. While Islamabad has written to India on multiple occasions requesting a reconsideration of the decision to suspend the treaty, New Delhi remains firm on its stance, stressing that blood and water cannot flow together. Now, this raises a bigger question. Can Pakistan afford to fight a war on two fronts? It escalated hostilities on its western front with Afghan Taliban in February this year, remember, by conducting airstrikes on the alleged TTP camps in Afghanistan's Nangarhar and Paktika provinces. This led to a series of attacks and counter-attacks by both sides. Pakistan has been unable to stop Afghanistan's counter-offensive. For instance, on the 30th of June this year, Afghanistan conducted airstrikes on centers of ISIS allegedly operating in the Saranan area of Balochistan's Pishin district and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Kambar Khel and Garam Chashma areas. According to Afghan Taliban, these centers were used as a coordination hub to bomb Afghanistan, in which civilians were targeted and for sabotage attacks. Heavy casualties and material losses were reportedly inflicted on ISIS. Earlier this week, Pakistan got a shot in its arm with the US State Department supporting Pakistan's right to defend itself against terror attacks. It also claimed that the Pakistani people have suffered greatly at the hands of terrorists. However, America's stance has to be taken with a pinch of salt. If we look back in history, United States has turned a blind eye even when Pakistan facilitated the rise of Taliban and treated its takeover of Kabul as a major strategic victory. And therefore, America's verbal support is unlikely to automatically translate into any material support for Pakistan in case a war with India breaks out. Now, as far as a real conflict-like scenario is concerned, remember Operation Sindoor serves as a reminder of how India's military prowess is far more superior than that of Pakistan. While a total of 6 Indian military personnel were martyred, over 100 Pakistani terrorists and soldiers were killed. And this is not all. India's air defense system successfully intercepted all incoming threats. India also successfully attacked 11 air bases of Pakistan, including the Noor Khan Air Base. Located barely 10 kilometers from Islamabad, this air base lies in close proximity to the headquarters of the Strategic Plans Division, the body that oversees Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. Subsequently, Pakistan's Director General of Military Operations, or the DGMO, reached out to his Indian counterpart seeking a ceasefire. Owing to India's strikes, nearly 20% of Pakistan's air infrastructure was destroyed during the time. Now, in wake of this, the Asim Munir-led military establishment must embrace the ground reality. At a time when its army is unable to combat militants, it's fighting a war with Afghanistan, and it is facing a spate of protests in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, more prudence, perhaps, is the need of the hour. All right, shifting our focus now to China. Chinese banks surpassed America in global financial dominance, at least on paper. Fresh data shows the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, or the ICBC, alone sits at roughly $7.6 trillion in assets, followed by Agricultural Bank of China, near $7 trillion. Just 4 state-owned giants, including China Construction Bank and the Bank of China, control about $25.5 trillion. That is a quarter of the world's top 50 banks' combined assets. At the Bank of Communications and other state lenders, and China's footprint among the world's biggest banks stretches well past $50 trillion. Compare that with America's biggest 3, JP Morgan Chase at $4.4 trillion and Bank of America at $3.4 trillion, with the U.S. trio, including Citi, lands closer to $11 to $12 trillion, which is far short of matching even a handful of Chinese mega banks. But size isn't the whole story. Look at the market capitalization and the picture flips hard. Market value is what investors actually think these banks are worth. JP Morgan's market cap tops $780 to $900 billion, which is nearly triple that of China's ICBC. But why the gap? Well, Chinese banks are policy tools first, profit engines second. They're forced into cheap lending to prop up local governments, real estate and infrastructure, compressing margins. Morningstar analysts note that Chinese state banks ramped financial investments nearly 19% in 2025, acting as a direct liquidity channel for Beijing's stimulus push, fueled by record government bond issuance. So the real signal isn't who's bigger, but who's more efficient. China wins the balance sheet war, but America wins the confidence war, and that divide, state-directed scale versus market-driven profitability, increasingly defines the global financial rivalry between Washington and Beijing.